Okay, so this was a fascinating set of talks. I have to say, when we first thought of this workshop, there was we spent time organizing it, and at one point somebody said, "But this is so close to Diwali, nobody's going to show up." But really, it's fascinating that it's packed, and the agenda is packed. So I'm really thrilled at everybody showing up and all the great talks. Really fascinating. I guess my main question is to try to, really focus on the research challenges that you see in each of your areas, and in particular, sort of AI for social good angle within those. I know you touched on the problems, but if we could go around and just talk about what do you see as sort of specific problems, AI problems on AI for social good that you think would be interesting for people to think about. And this is going to be, this is going to be some of the things that we will discuss later on as well.
I would say good models of human-computer interaction are certainly required. Crowdsourcing, Mosam comes to a rescue, and he had a very comprehensive presentation, especially on how to evaluate labelers from the crowd, and also how to more seamlessly integrate the crowd into the model itself. So, really not treat the crowd also as learners. So nobody gets his annotation or the dataset creation correct always at the correct at the first shot. So give chance for iterating. So yeah, I would say human-computer interaction, more robust models of crowdsourcing, two-way active learning. These are very important research problems in my mind.
I think I just spoke, I gave my 2 cents on this. So, but I'll just add that I think there is a lot of data in plain sight. There's a lot of data floating out there that we can't really use. And so techniques to get insight into that. We, for example, have not even got into the text processing yet. We're just beginning to get into it. So there's so much more information. For example, you could capture about political actors if you could mine all the news articles about them. We haven't even started that yet, but hopefully that will be an interesting area going forward.
Let me take a slightly broader view. So, not just for the digital society or for any of the previous sessions. In general, I think AI gets started when somebody has created an important and useful data set. Before that, AI researcher cannot even get involved. So I see of AI technology as an enabler, as a part of the process for any social good application, be it agriculture, be it healthcare, be it education, be it legal, be it political. Somebody has to put together a very important data set. Usually that's the domain expert. Usually it is not the AI person. In some cases there can be an anomaly, but usually it's the domain expert with, for whatever reasons, have put together this data set. For example, in our case of CAT scans, this hospital approached us. They said, we are the first rural hospital in the country and we have been documenting all the CAT scans and MRIs that have been taken in our facility, including the radiologist report. Can you do something with it? That is the first step. I, as an AI person, will not go easily to each hospital and say, okay, let's start maintaining this data set. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we need is for the domain expert to tell us what are the important problems that they are interested in. What do they want this data set to reveal to them? They may not know how to solve those problems. It may not be easy for them to speak those problems in a language that we understand. They may not even know the scope. But a communication, see in HCI and in business also, we often say know your user. Talk to the user, have user interviews so that you understand what is it they need. In this kind of interdisciplinary research, I believe it is job of the AI person, AI researcher, to talk to this domain expert and let them fantasize about what kind of world they can envision in the future in their domain. Because then through that, we will be able to identify nuggets of tasks, which can be something that either become research problems, or existing solutions can be adapted to them easily. And I think the third most important thing is the life cycle of it. The AI system will use it, might be able to come up with insights based on passive data analysis, or might be able to come up with an active system which can interact with the domain or with the user and give regular insights. But then what? Then it needs to go into that setup, into that domain. So if someday we are able to figure out how to read CAT scans automatically using deep learning, then what do we do with it? Well, we have to go to the radiologist. We have to talk to them. We have to say, okay, these are the insights in our system can create. What do you need? What is that user interface? Now, of course, they don't want the deep learning system to be doing their work, but the AI system will be completely wrong many of the times. So, what part of the AI system can we deploy so that the radiologist can actually benefit from it and save their time? So, I think I really think of myself as a very small part of the big picture. And in this big picture, there is an important domain. Somebody has the foresight or the insight to collect the data. Somebody approaches us, or we approach them, and we get access to the data. Then some of the magic gets done with AI algorithms, or new algorithms come in. And then we go back to them and say, look, this is what we have found. Let us have a start communication, and let's have this loop. So my experience has been so far in the 4 years in India is that there are so many people really excited about using AI technology. Very few of them are collecting data at a high quality, and even far fewer of them are willing to share this data. And the initial conversations start and they end. So I feel that there are more logistic challenges. I can't tell you the research problem that AI needs to solve, because many of the times the research problems are indicated by the data sets themselves. When you have a certain data set, you try to apply an existing algorithm, you find, oh, that algorithm does not work. That algorithm does not work because this data set has this special characteristic. Now you start modeling the special characteristics. So most of the time, the AI challenges begin with modeling and then lead to algorithms. So until we do the modeling, it is hard for me, at least from my vantage point as an applied researcher, say what are the research challenges. But having this communication and encouraging and facilitating this communication, and having teams of domain experts and AI scientists come together, I think that is what is going to really make a significant difference.
So, Mausam, I made a mistake in sitting to your right because you stole everything I was going to say. Not quite, but I was just going to add to what you were saying, which is that we have a handful of NGOs in the audience. I think, if anything, the best way to answer this question is to ask them. And I'm hoping that if we do this workshop again, we can get even more kind of practitioners on the ground, people who are not necessarily AI experts, because I think that's really the place to start. And that's all I was going to add to what you're saying.
I'll start with the same complaint as him. I am also unhappy that Mausam sat before me. He said everything. Yeah, but I actually worry a lot about how to detect AI failing, right? I mean, so AI is a immodest being, in the sense that it does not want to know what it does not know. It does not even know what it does not know. So figuring out the unknowns. When did the AI system fail? So if you are doing MRI scan detection, so when it could not detect, so if you trust it too much, then what? I mean, so if in Venture, for example, if I could not connect people who have the same complaint, should you be feeling isolated? Am I the only one who has this complaint, no one else is? Or did the AI system fail? So, and the other thing in terms of AI in the field, when it is deployed, I worry a lot about positive feedback, right? I mean, so if I am using AI to collect labeled data, or to decide on what I do now, in the long term, I'll be adding positive feedback. It's like, sometimes if you are being taught by a teacher who only gives you easy problem, you might have a false sense of being a master of your field, whereas somebody who is confused and kind of messed up actually shows you a more complete picture, whereas AI will be solving, in some ways, the easy problems, right? And then you might think that you have reached a particular target, but actually you have not. So, I'm kind of worried about the edge, which is outside the reach of AI. And also, of course, all of this social good and all, it requires a very close-knit pipeline between the people who will be using it, the developers who will be actually creating systems and maintaining it, in the long term. It's not for me like something that I do for 6 months and then I feel good that I have done something useful. Unless it lives for at least 5 years, what's the point of doing it, right? So how will that happen when we are trying to build something sitting in academia?
So I would actually like to echo what Mosam said, because I just with a personal example. So at one point of time, about a couple of years back, so we developed an algorithm for classifying. So there are two kinds of social media posts: situational, which gives situational information, and others like sentiment and all. So we designed a classifier to distinguish between the two and then summarize the situational information. And we compared with several baselines using standard summarization evaluation metrics. And we could beat several baselines, and we got the paper published at a top-tier conference. We were really happy. So then we showed the summaries to actual NGOs and people who work in the disaster sites. They told us this won't be of any use. Why? We are beating all systems out there. They said that you are summarizing situational information. What we want is actionable information. So then we said, what's the difference? So then they explained to us, and then we understood the situational information might be, 8,000 people have died in the Nepal earthquake. This is situational information. But you really can't do anything with this except feeling sad. Actionable information is drinking water needed in this village. So the problem was that later we understood that in any kind of summarization process, you assume that whatever occurs most frequently in data is the most important thing. But here it was completely opposite. The most important thing is something which is very infrequent. So these kind of things the domain experts need to tell us, the practitioners who are working out on the site. So I agree that we need a lot of interaction with the practitioners. And also another point is that often what our algorithms find out, we are not able to judge whether it's good. Things like in the medical domain or legal domain, like even if the algorithm gives us some output, we cannot judge whether it's good. So again, we need to go back to the practitioners to tell us what is good. And the third thing I would say, I really don't know if any easy solution exists there. That there are some projects where maybe the challenge is not computer science oriented, or maybe not, maybe a deep learning method developing is not the main challenge. Here I find difficulties in motivating computer science or technical students to do that work, because ultimately it's a usable system which is to be developed. But then students at maybe technical institutes, computer science students are not that much always willing to develop the system. They are more interested in deep learning. So that is a problem where maybe some kind of incentive mechanisms, maybe, I don't know, maybe internships or these kind of things. Some conferences are coming up nowadays, but maybe some more incentives are required to get good people to actually do the groundwork.
Yeah, Mosam instigated a lot of thinking. So I always used to wonder, why can't AI machine learning have some of the properties that database system research has ingrained? For example, declarative semantics. Can we have declarative semantics associated with ML models, which kind of say, declare upfront, this is what I'm capable of doing, this is what I'm not capable of doing. So machines are excellent. I mean, AI may be excellent at recall, or I would say it's much better than humans at recall in many situations. But what about precision? So the capacity, the robustness for a model to be able to come back and say, I refrain from giving an answer, or the model to actually approach the domain expert as a consultant and engage in a dialogue. I don't necessarily mean dialogue systems here, but the learning process itself being a dialogue. And I go back to what I said earlier, in case I didn't make myself clear. I mean, I think there's a chance for the human also to learn from the machine as it provides insights into the data. And we've practically seen labeling Ventor, or labeling any repository of BTP reports, master's reports. I mean, every time I have an email on a particular topic, I try to classify it. I revisit the tag later on. I realize, well, I would have actually tagged it as something else, right? So, so a person who is knowledgeable in the domain might benefit from a second chance. So, can humans be given that second chance courtesy the machine? And can machines refrain from pretending to know what more than what they know?
So a couple of times HCI was mentioned in this session, and so Mosam was mentioning how much of design goes into designing the interventions. Ganesh, you also mentioned. So one question I have is, this is probably a broader question, but I would like to draw from experiences. In the end goal or the improvement that you get, how much do you think is due to the design process and the interfaces that people use that versus the optimization that you do on top of those systems? Or often is that, or is it just a mixed intervention where it's hard to tell what's the main driver?
My reaction to your question is I always feel that at least in crowdsourcing platforms or in general in any platforms where you're building user-facing applications, interface is more important than anything else. I mean, of course, functionality, if you have good interface but it can't do anything, then that's obviously useless. But if you have to make a choice between better interface and slightly more optimization, I would always first go with better interface and then optimization later. So that's why most of the work that we have done in crowdsourcing, most of the interesting work, I mean, there's always some binary choice, multiple choice kind of work. There was a question about that too. There we don't need that much of user interface, but even their clear instructions have a huge role first. Sometimes you start with confusing instructions and that completely confuses the workers. But in more complex tasks, it is always the HCI researcher first who designs the workflow. And then after the design, they show that it can be done. And then we take it and make it work better or cheaper or higher quality. But the can be done aspect usually in crowdsourcing has come from HCI for me.
I would like to add that it's not like it's HCI. There can be AI in designing human interfaces, not in the form of superficial interfaces, but I'm just saying that if you're trying to get data label, I feel putting one particular instance in the context of other examples, and it also goes back to the point that Ganesh made about relabeling, you might want to revisit. Sometimes because when you're just shown instance at a time, you cannot provide as high quality labels when you're shown in the context of other examples, like which are close by or which you think might be confusing. So I've done a bit of work on active learning, and I feel it's very important to show examples which are on the boundary, where you think you might be straddling through classes. And if you show, sort of here are the set of examples, now label all of them jointly. This is an AI problem, but it's also an HCI problem. So that's where I think research is required when you look for crowding.
Just one quick thought. I think it's useful to ask who is going to make use of the AI. If you look at a company like Google and Facebook and Microsoft, the impacts of AI have been massive. I mean, it's just totally taking over their organization. And part of that is because they can hire extremely highly skilled people. And they have lots of money to be able to sort of bring in human capacity. But if you think about, I mean, the context of this workshop is social good. And so we're talking about a different set of organizations, often don't have as much money. So NGOs often don't have as much money, for example. So in a situation like that where you have less human capacity, I would argue that the design, the human interface matters more because you need to overcome that limitation of less capacity. That's all I say, yeah.
I would slightly differ with you because social good doesn't mean that it has to be not for profit all the time. Having said that, I think, in my opinion, first of all, great sessions. I actually come from a very different background. I actually come from Microsoft Worldwide Commercial Business, so different perspective. But otherwise, if I look at it, AI should be complementing what and where human intelligence actually may be limited, but it should not be something where human common sense is actually failing. So for example, the complaint management system, it's probably to do with failure of human common sense than actually something to do with no.
Yeah, but what is technology going to do?
If
there is a failure of human common sense,
that's what I was trying to say. Having said that, in India we have around 3.4 million NGOs, registered NGOs. If they can't fix a problem, I don't think AI can ever fix the problem.
Exactly.
That's a fair point to make. Yeah. Having said that, I think we should look at AI as probably more complementing where human intelligence is actually limited. Again, it should not be just only for social good. Doesn't mean that it has to be not for profit. You can always have something which is for social good, yet it is a profitable venture as well.
I have a quick response. I mean, human is not one individual. When we say human intelligence is failing, what do we mean? Are we saying Gary Kasparov's intelligence is failing, or an average person's chess playing ability is failing? Or in this particular case, do people know how to write form, how to fill form? Yes. Are they inclined to fill forms? No. Is everybody equally good at filling forms? No. So therefore, when we say that we have to deal with human systems, we have to deal with all kinds of humans, also the people who don't know how to fill forms, and even their problems are as important. So I personally disagree with you here. I believe that, yes, machine intelligence must be complementing human intelligence as much as possible. But at the same time, there are situations where some other human could have done a better job, or the expert human is not available. And I think those are very, very valid scenarios for AI systems to come in. For example, if we can create an automated teacher which will teach in our villages, I will be very happy. So I mean, it's a longer, I mean, it's a philosophical debate, but
This is a very long, I mean, it's a very interesting philosophical discussion.
Just a sort of, I mean, this is AI and social good, and the social good part is not only taken care of by NGOs. I think we need to think of government, obviously, is an important part of that. But when it comes to government or anything other than, you were talking about what are where AI fails at the boundaries, etc. I think from the other side, you tend to see of it as, equity being part of something that you need to adhere to for government, that all citizens need to be taken care of. And for that, I think, you need to have conversations with also, in a forum like this, potentially what we are missing are the naysayers and the doomsayers about where all of this is going to go, the people who don't like Aadhaar for X, Y, and Z reason, because it is at the intersection of these sort of conflicting opinions that we will have solutions to sort of problems in a way that addresses the current situation. So the reason I bring that up is because, if I were to listen to the conversations, and if I was in government and you came with that solution for disasters, I'll say, no, I don't want that, because I'm worried about bias. Who are the people, who will have Twitter, who will have social media, which I don't know answers to, because I could be accused of only the rich people that I'm doing. But how do we ask those kind of questions in the research that all of you, the amazing work that all of you all are doing? I think probably in this group we need to have a little bit more of the people who don't want this kind of work happening also in this room, to make us refine our ideas a little bit better.
The topic of NGOs and governments has come up often as potential partners. When I started this, my work in the social enterprise sector, we were trying to help with neonatal mortality. And this was 2010. When I looked at the data, we had a lot of home deliveries. Institutional deliveries had officially, though, crossed the 50% mark. It was at 60%. Now, if you look at, when we looked at just the babies born in institutions, in the country, it was 2% who were born in NGO-managed hospitals. Okay. About 60% were in government, 40% were in private facilities. Okay. The reason I quote that statistic is, when we talk about NGOs and governments, we are missing large segments of the population that participate in market economies but are struggling, okay, but are not necessarily destitute and therefore not necessarily addressed as truly bottom of the pyramid. And these may be low-hanging fruit who may not be accessible through government and NGOs, but through private sector organizations. May not be organized private sector, but there's large pools of possibility there.
Any other questions?
So I have a clarification too. So when you say not the bottom of the pyramid, but yet struggling enterprises, do you mean, for example, the informal sector, the kirana stores, the chota mota dispensaries?
Yes, dispensaries, kirana stores, take your meats. Many of them, due to government incentives, will go deliver in a government setting. When the baby falls sick, they will not go to a government facility, right, for example. When they need surgery, they will not go to a government facility. Your auto drivers, many cab drivers, right? The urban poor is a large segment, by the way, who often do tend to get neglected, and very different characteristics from rural poor.
Yeah, this question is to Mr. Hangal. Just wanted to understand the work what you did in Hubli Dharwad in terms of bringing the transparency in the civil work activities of the local administration. How was the local administration actually took it, and how did they include that in their work for actually bringing in the smart city initiatives in that particular region? Because what I understand is that some of the smart cities actually locations, before they came up with the RFP, they did a lot of actually extensive workshops with various stakeholders and took the feedback from them in terms of actually bringing out the very unique smart city propositions for that particular region. So in your work, when you did for Hubli Dharwad, what was the outcome and how it was actually taken forward by the local administration?
So I think there are a lot of things that are wrong about the smart city mission, but one of the things that actually has worked is the citizen participation to a relative degree, partly because there was a point system, and so the city, if nothing else, had to show that they had consulted 1 lakh people or 2 lakh people or whatever it is. So there was a genuine commitment to doing whatever it takes to reach a lot of people. That's number one. The second thing is that what is a smart city is very much left to the particular city, at least in the Indian Smart City program. So cities make whatever they want of it, and I think that's the way the government wants it also. So it's really up to us or up to the citizens to make what they want of it. So in our case, we have said that open data should be a big part of smart city. I don't think many other cities have done that. But once we go to them with that platform, I mean, it's hard for them to say no, for one thing, because it's kind of a commonsensical thing. The other thing is to project the tools that we are building as tools that will help them, not the public necessarily, even though that is also part of the agenda. So for example, the system I showed where you can crowdsource what's really happening on the ground in terms of works is a big boon to the commissioner, because he doesn't have to travel now to all his 70 wards or whatever it is. He can now sit in his office and look at a bunch of works from his office. So packaging it in a way that benefits both the government as well as the public, and not necessarily going head to head. I mean, I'm sure if this system gets really popular, we'll see a lot of backlash and a lot of vested interest coming in. But so far, we haven't got to that point. So packaging it in a way that that really brings out benefit for the administration as well, I think is really important. Packaging it in a way that's saying that you don't have to pay 2 crores to somebody to develop this software. We'll do it as an open source platform for you for free. That helps a lot. So things like that.
Thanks a lot.
So at this point, I mean, this is a really thought-provoking set of talks and really provocative questions. There's lots of questions I have personally, but we have to end this at this time so that we can move on. Thank you very much for excellent talks. Thank you.